Hello and welcome to CloudFolks HUB. Right now, our DynamoDB series is going on and we are exploring each and every feature of DynamoDB. Now, we are going to cover one of the most important feature of DynamoDB known as export to S3. We will cover this topic using two videos. This is part 1 of export to S3. Next video will cover same topic. So, let's start. First of all, I want you to find out this particular option from DynamoDB console. Here, I have one table name is order table. And if I'm going to this particular table, here we have so many tabs. One of tab is exports and streams. If you click on exports, the first option that you are going to get over here is export to S3. Why we have this particular option? Let's understand this using mind map. Here I am going to start with introduction, as it is really very easy to understand. Export to S3 feature in Amazon DynamoDB allows you to export data from your DynamoDB table directly into the S3. So, if you want to export your data from your DynamoDB table to S3, you can use this feature. Now, you may have one question over here as well, that why we need to export this, right? There are so many use cases. Here I am explaining you 4 main use case. First of all, you want to analyze your data. Right now, most of the companies are taking their decision by analyzing their data. So, you have all your orders stored into the DynamoDB and you want to analyze your orders to get future prediction. You cannot directly analyze the data from DynamoDB table. You have to export this into the S3 and then you can use analytics tool to analyze this data. So, this is like the first use case. Sometime based on your business requirement, it is also compliance requirement to store the data into the another storage system. So, this is one of the another use case of exporting data to S3. Archiving or a long term backup is also one of the use case, and if you want to share your data across the different system. So, you have DynamoDB table, you have all your sales orders over there, you want to share this with different system, you can export to S3 and then S3 can easily share this data across the any other system. So, these are the main 4 use cases. Now, when you are exporting this data here, it is not going to affect performance of your database. So, you don't need to worry about performance degradation, right? Now, I am going to explain you how it works. So, first of all, we have to initiate the export. So, here we have this particular option. If I am going to the export to S3, here it is going to ask me some questions or some options that I need to configure and then I can export this. But before I am going to export this, I want you to understand this particular point. See, if you want to export your data to S3, here your point in time recovery status must be on. If it is off, you cannot export data directly, right? So, let us say that if I am going to click on edit here and if I am going to turn off point in time recovery, okay, and this is going to turn it off. And now, if I am going to the exports and if I am going to click on export to S3, I am getting this error, right? So, you have to turn on point in time recovery first, then you can export this data to S3. So, this is mandatory requirement, okay. Now, let us understand the whole process. Select the DynamoDB table you want to export. Start the export process using AWS CLI, console or SDK. As you know that we are doing this using AWS console. Definitely I will tell you about how AWS CLI is working in upcoming day, but don't worry about this. Right now we are concentrating on AWS console only. So, we will use this console, right. Now, the first thing first, you need to choose destination bucket. So, whenever you want to store data into the S3, you have to have bucket. So, you have to create your bucket, then you can click on browse S3, you can choose your bucket and the data will be exported to this specific bucket. Now, here we have one good option as well. It is not compulsory to have bucket into the same account. If you have different AWS account and if you want to store data into that particular bucket, you can also do this, but here you have to take care about the permission, right. So, right now you just need to remember two things: you can store data into the same AWS account bucket or different AWS account bucket as well. Once you select your bucket, here we have export settings. Now these two options are really important for you to understand. Okay, so I'm going to explain you both of these options: export settings, full export and incremental export. Now let's start with the full export. Introduction. Full export in DynamoDB allows you to export all the data in your table to an Amazon S3 bucket. You can export the table as it is now or as it was at any time in the last 35 days. Okay, I am going to give you perfect example so you can understand both of these options. Okay, there are two options for full export: one, current time, and export from an earlier point in time. If you look at over here, you can find out that if I am going to choose full export here, I have two options here, right? Current time and export from the earlier point in time. Now, I want you to understand these two options properly, so I am going to go with one scenario and then I am going to explain you the full process. We'll start with the full export with current time, but before this, I want you to understand this particular scenario. Let me close this scenario. Let's assume that you have table created on 1st December 2024, right? And let's say that current date today is 20th January. Okay, these two dates are really very important. I want you to remember this. Now, I am choosing this option: full export, current time. Okay, and then exporting data. What will happen? The export will include all the data from 1st December 2024. Keep this in mind. We have created table on the 1st December 2024. So all the data since table creation to the current date will be exported. There are no time restrictions for these options. So from the beginning to end, you are going to export all the data if you are going to choose this particular option. Now, it is kind of full export, right? But what if I am going to choose this one, export from the earlier point in time? And here what I am doing, I am going to choose 5th January as earlier point. Okay. Here I am going to add a timing as well, like 5 p.m. Okay. So what will happen? Export, full export, specific point in time. Okay. Now here you have to understand this particular 35 days restrictions. Okay. So
Sorry to interrupt you. I know you guys are enjoying our video a lot because our final ultimate goal is Solution Architect Certification exam. To reach the destination, we required full videos. To create our success story, here we have a 3 path. You can choose any of them. Path number 1, our 6-in-1 program. Our 6-in-1 program include all prerequisite skills which is needed as a cloud engineer. It include 24/7 support, lifetime update, section-wise practice test, full course practice test with tips and tricks by Bhavesh Atara, how to do exam preparation course, weekly lifetime live session with Bhavesh Atara, and 6 AWS project with documents. Path number 2, you can enroll by paying 499 and get Hindi and English, both the languages, videos of AWS. Path number 3, which is the last one, you can join our YouTube Elite membership. The choice is yours how to create your success story by choosing best one. Best of luck. Thank you.